corporal works of mercy is to visit the sick. As a parish priest, I loved visiting the sick. It put everything in perspective, and it allowed me to be present at a moment that is very holy, when people in suffering and pain draw near the suffering Christ. When you're sick, just have somebody that steps out of their day and comes to visit you and give you some attention and maybe to pray with you, bring you a fruit basket or a gift. I mean, that just lightens the load. So to visit the sick is a really, really important thing. For those of us that are rarely sick, it's probably hard to understand what it's like to be bedridden, to be housebound, to be in the hospital for a long stay. But to visit the sick and to go out of our way to show them compassion and tenderness is truly an act of mercy, and it's a holy thing. So everybody can do that, right? Go visit the sick. Go visit somebody in your neighborhood, in your parish. Kudos to those people who take communion to the sick on a regular basis. I know many parishes assign a Eucharistic minister to a housebound person, and those two people develop a wonderful friendship, a beautiful spiritual relationship.
I'll never forget the first night of my pastoral internship. The pastor and I went out to 3 hospitals. We started our rounds at 8 o'clock at night, and I remember going into these hospital rooms. It was after visiting hours, and the people were usually either asleep or relaxing at that point, and we would knock on the door, we'd walk in, and they would light up when they saw their pastor. And it was beautiful how some of these people who had not even been to church in so long, who had not received the sacraments, I remember one woman in particular, the first thing out of her mouth was, "Father, can I go to confession?" It was a magical, magical moment to see that sort of mercy in action, to see people who were facing major illnesses really embrace their faith in those trying moments. It was inspiring.
You see that in the hospital, both the spiritual and corporal works of mercy being carried out every day. Even as a chaplain of the hospital, there's those who hunger for physical food, there's those who hunger for spiritual food, whether it be the Eucharist, the sacraments, the Word of God, a prayer, a Bible passage, whatever. We had one family in particular we got to be pretty close to, up on 6th floor, and we walked the journey with them as their loved one was dying, and eventually the Lord called them home. And how grateful the family was that we cared, that somebody cared, prayed with them, offered them words of encouragement, words of hope in the resurrection. And they're not Catholic, they were Baptist. And yet we were able to seek common ground and begin to flourish the relationship from there.
Well, they were open to prayer. They were open to coming in and being able to pray with each other and knowing that it was going to be okay. I always say God put you in the right place at the right time. And he definitely did. We got very close to this person, and his journey going home was not only for him, but I think for us. And there's so much to be taught in God's work that it when someone's dying, it just brings it home for us. You don't take anything for granted. You share each day with the love that you have for everyone. And like I said, it doesn't matter who it is. God teaches us to love everyone. So it's very easy when you can work it together. And like I said, God always puts us in the right place at the right time.
And you see, even with families, in the family situation, there may have been a strained relationship for a number of years. And now mom is dying, she's actively dying. And now you hear the couldas, the shouldas, the wouldas. And you can't change 25, 30, even 40 years of a family history in 45 minutes or less. But that you help them to come to know that during that time, it's precious. It's that moment of you not to recall all what happened or what could have done different, but to thank your mother, thank your father, your loved one for the many blessings that God has bestowed. Because those are signs of goodness, of his goodness to us. And that everything will be okay. When you see mercy, you see compassion, you see love in not only those whom we work with, but you see it in the patients. I take care of the psych unit up at the hospital, and you see the patients who come in broken, bruised, beaten, vulnerable, scared, and not so much in the physical, but in the emotional, and the mental. And you watch them as they come on the unit, and you see this. And many of them, they reach out in that last moment of hope. They reach out to the tassel of St. Catherine's, of the hospital. They reach out to the hospital because they know Jesus Christ's healing presence resides in that hospital. And they know Jesus will heal them. When you go in and you visit with a patient, regardless where you're at in the hospital, you see Jesus Christ's face in every patient in that hospital. You also see it in the staff as well. But when you're in that room and you're visiting with a sick person, a dying person, and you go in to minister to them, to assure them of Jesus' love, of Jesus' compassion, of mercy, of forgiveness, of pardon, of protection, but also peace. As you minister to that patient in turn ministers back to you. And then you learn something about yourself. And it's like, wow. I often said with the patients, even in the hospital, even those in the psych unit, if what brought them here, if they can get through what brought them to this unit, that there's no reason Bobby and I can't get through our struggles. And there is no judgment. You're absolutely right. Oh my gosh, no.
There's never any judgment. Doesn't matter where you come from, where you've been. Everyone's entitled to be cared for and loved in the same way.
We all are agents of Christ's healing to each other. As Christians, as Catholics, as those who work in healthcare. You experience and you see this every day. And how these random acts of kindness, these charitable acts of mercy, everything we do in our charity is to help each other to get back on their feet, to rise, pick up their mat, and walk, as Jesus said to the paralytic.
And you get to share your faith along with giving them something to eat or helping them feel better. I tend to always bring God into it. You know, somebody will say, well, I'm really sicker than I thought. Well, we're not going to claim anything because we're going to give it to God, and God's going to take care of it. So it's great for me, especially I'm with the patients more, and you're able to bring your faith into it. And most of the time they're very accepting of it. And if they're not, well then, you know, I always say if you'd like to talk later or you change your mind, and I usually say, you know, my husband's the chaplain here, the deacon. If you change your mind, if you'd like to have a Bible, to kind of give them a little comfort, to know that even though you're out there and you're in this position, it's still going to be okay. It's going to work out. And just hopefully they'll have a little more faith when they're done. And like I said, we really try to bring that into our daily living at the hospital as much as possible.